Good morning. Welcome all to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Spokane, where our mission is to join together to create a nourishing liberal religious home and to champion justice, diversity, and environmental stewardship in our wider world, or as we say in short, to create community, find meaning, and work for justice. Welcome everyone. I want to begin as always by embracing all that you bring with you. All of your uniqueness, your unique beliefs, your background, your lifestyle, your experiences, everything that helps make you who you are. This includes those of you in the room with us today, as well as those who are streaming with us. It's so good to have you here as well. So welcome to one and all. I'm going to let you spend a little bit of time greeting each other this morning, but first I do have one announcement. I want to put in a plug for next week's guest speaker. Some of you have probably heard of City Council President Brian Beggs. Yes, Brian has been a friend to our community and to our church and to myself for a long time, and he's going to be here giving a message entitled, "In Spokane, We All Belong." This is obviously a reference to the growing housing and homeless crisis in our community, and I think we all think we need to do something about this crisis, but some don't think it should happen in their neighborhood. So I think we need to hear Brian's perspective on this and the importance of doing some real practical things that can help people when they need the support of their community most. So we'll look forward to having Brian here. I do want you, if you get an opportunity, to say thanks to our special guest speaker team, which currently involves two individuals, Marina Ladich and Paul Linholt. They have really been doing a wonderful job arranging excellent speakers from right here in our community on the Sundays that I'm out of the pulpit. So if you get a chance to see them and thank them for their wonderful efforts, that would be nice too. Okay. Let's take a few moments to greet one another. Make some new friends today if there's someone you don't know, and if you are joining us more recently, please don't be shy. Yeah, true. Okay, more time to visit during our social hour, but let's move forward now by lighting our chalice. The chalice is the symbol of our faith, of our unity and our solidarity, of our openness and our inclusion, of our community and our individual uniqueness. May this small flame be our offering of warmth to those who are cold and alone, and a light to those in darkness. May it be a flame that ignites... Sorry. I'm about to read a line I should know by heart. May it be a flame that ignites justice in our world and a beacon of hope to those in need, and may it reflect at least a spark of truth wherever truth is lost and cast a healthy shadow of doubt wherever it's been found. You know how it is when you start thinking about something? When you're speaking by rote, and then you forget what it is you're saying? Do you know what that's like? You're just like, it's going to just keep getting worse, isn't it? Yeah. All right, well. Anyway, I think I'm good.
The opening reflection today. In preparing for today's service, I was drawn to that old and very well-known story of Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. First published in 1865 by Lewis Carroll, it was a collection of stories told to the daughter of a family friend. Her name was Alice. It's never been out of print, and it became the springboard for films, theatrical performances, and the subject of academic analysis. The imagery has woven its way into the lexicon of modern-day language and storytelling. You likely remember Alice was in the park listening to her sister read when she sees a white rabbit wearing a waistcoat and carrying a watch running past and muttering, I'm late, for a very important date." Curious, Alice chases after the rabbit and ends up tumbling down into a rabbit hole. Certain the rabbit can help her find her way out of this strange place, she chases after him. Alice encounters many bizarre and curious creatures, including talking doors, a smiling disappearing cat, a hookah-smoking caterpillar, a very tyrannical queen, grows very tall and very small, attends an unbirthday party, plays croquet with flamingos as putter sticks. Everywhere and everyone implores her to do one thing or another, eat this, go there, do this. It was all adding to her confusion. Each time when things felt rather desperate and curiouser, the rabbit appears, still dashing and muttering, I'm late, and Alice runs after him with more mishaps and strange encounters along the way. We all know she eventually finds her way back to the park, peacefully napping to where it all began. Everything was as it was before, or was it?
Our first in-service hymn of the morning is number 301 in your hardback hymnal, if you care to access it, or, of course, the words on the screen, touch the earth and reach the sky. Please rise as you're willing and able. 1, touch the earth, reach the sky, walk on shores while spirits fly, over the
touch the earth, reach the sky, soar with courage ever high, spirits joining as we fly to touch the earth and reach the sky.
And we are now going to kindle our candles of care for those who are most on our hearts and minds this morning. We will begin, as we have been, with a candle for the people of Ukraine and that region of the world that are being most impacted by the violence there, acknowledging that the violence is a worldwide problem, that particular war is causing worldwide problems for all of us, but there are people that are certainly being impacted by it, their lives daily devastated by it, so we want to continue to show our compassion and sympathies for them. Also want to kindle a candle for my friend Happy Watkins. Happy was here for our first service, and he, of course, is the minister emeritus now of a Baptist church here in town, New Hope Baptist, but a friend of our congregation, and he often will contact me if he wants a candle, either a candle of celebration for something going on in his life, or a candle of concern. And as many of you may recall, Happy developed sciatica probably at least a year or so ago now, and just can't get rid of it. So even though he was here, he was even in pain. So he said, keep lighting those candles for me. I believe in those things. So we will kindle a candle for Happy as well. Let's take a moment of silence on behalf of others that you might be thinking of, and as always, you're welcome to name them aloud at this time if you'd like. Those named aloud and those embraced in our silence, and all those who are suffering in our world at this hour, we hold in our community with compassion. And we now gratefully give and receive this morning's offering, which helps sustain this community and our mission to the larger world.
Everybody says don't, everybody says don't, everybody says don't, it isn't right, don't, it isn't nice. Everybody says don't, everybody says don't, everybody says don't walk on the grass, don't disturb the peace, don't skate on the ice. Well, I say do. I say walk on the grass, it's meant to feel. I say sail, tilt at the windmill, and if you fail, you fail. Everybody says don't, everybody says don't, everybody says don't, get out of line. When they say that, then, baby, that's a sign. 9 times out of 10, baby, you're doing just fine. Make just a ripple, come on, be brave. This time a ripple, next time a wave. Sometimes you have to start small, climbing the tiniest wall. Maybe you're going to fall, but it's better than not starting at all. Everybody says no, everybody says stop, everybody says mustn't rock the boat, mustn't touch a thing. Everybody says don't, everybody says wait, everybody says can't fight City Hall, can't upset the cart, can't laugh at the king. Well, I say try. I say laugh at the kings or they make you cry. Lose your poise. Fall if you have to, but baby, make a noise. Everybody says don't, everybody says can't, everybody says wait around for miracles. That's the way the world is made. Well, I insist on miracles. If you do them, miracles, nothing to them. I say don't be afraid.
Hello, it's time for all ages story, and I see a little kid who's coming closer to listen. Thank you.
It's a rabbit.
Yes, gosh, I must warn you that that was not coordinated. Recently read a book by Marjorie Williams. It is called The Velveteen Rabbit. It's about a young boy and his toy rabbit. The rabbit was fat and soft. His coat had some spots of brown and white spots. He lived in a toy cupboard together with several mechanical toys that looked down upon everyone else and pretended they were real. "What's real?" asked the rabbit one day. "Does it mean having these things that buzz inside you and make you move?" "No," said the old horse. "Real isn't how you're made. It's a thing that happens to you when a child loves you for a long time, not just to play with. Then you become real." At night, the rabbit slept in the boy's bed. At first, he found it uncomfortable because the boy hugged him very tight. But pretty soon the rabbit grew to like it, and the boy talked to him, and they had splendid games together. Time went on, and the little rabbit was so happy that he never noticed his beautiful velveteen fur was getting shabbier, and the pink rubbed off his nose when the boy had kissed him. One day, they were playing outside together when the boy suddenly was called home for dinner, and the rabbit was left behind the flower border. When it was time to go to bed, the boy could not find his rabbit, and he started crying. "Oh, there, have another bunny. What is all that fuss for a toy?" said his nanny. "You must not say that. He's not a toy. He is real," said the boy. Time passed. The rabbit grew older and shabbier, and his whiskers went off, and his brown spots faded. But the boy loved him just as much. Late autumn, the boy got sick. When he stayed in bed, the rabbit was with him, by his side. He knew the boy needed him. Eventually, the boy got better. And when the doctor came to check on the child, he noticed that old toy that lost its shape and hardly looked like a rabbit. "What's that?" said the doctor. "It's a mass of germs. Take it away." And so the little rabbit was put into a sack and carried out to the end of the garden. Winter passed, and in the spring, when the days grew warm and sunny, the boy went out to play in the woods behind the garden. As he was playing, two rabbits came out from the tall grass and looked at him. One of them was brown all over, but the other had strange markings under his fur, as though long ago he used to have some spots. There was something familiar about the little nose, his round black eyes, and the boy thought to himself, the rabbit looked just like his old bunny, his favorite toy that he believed to be real. The author of this book also describes a magic that happened to the toy rabbit. Can you guess what was the magic? Think about it. And we'll sing The Kid to home, okay? Go now in peace.
Now is the time in our service to move into a few moments of meditation. Continuing with Alice's adventures, writer Boris Cox identified 6 wise lessons we can learn from Alice's adventures in Wonderland. Curious people have more adventures. Be open to the impossible. Embrace the magical. It's important to know yourself and to know where you're going. And finally, all the best people, perhaps, are just a bit bonkers.
I really enjoyed the playfulness with which our lay leader and our storyteller and our special music have engaged with the topic today. I'm going to be talking a bit about virtual reality, which is one of those things you can have a lot of fun playing with. And the reason I want to talk about it is because, one, I just love virtual reality. I'm completely into it. But also, I attended the Singularity University back in 2018, attended their executive program, which is an organization that's begun by Ray Kurzweil, the futurist, and Peter Diamandis, founder of X Prize and SpaceX. And one of the first things you learn at Singularity University, the thing that is really emphasized the most, is that we are living in an age of exponential changes. And what that means is things are changing around us faster than they have ever changed before in history. Right? That's what exponential means. It means the change comes faster and faster and faster. And so the changes we're experiencing today are going to be even faster tomorrow. And so what exponential organizations ought to do, and I consider ours an exponential organization, because we are progressives. Progressive means to move forward. And you can't move forward unless you're keeping up with the times. So to do that, we have to become agile. Otherwise, our fear causes us to retreat from the change. So I consider it part of my ministerial work now to help our community, our church community in particular, become more agile, more able to emotionally and psychologically cope with the rapid changes that are going to be there whether we deny them or not, whether we face them or not. So how do we become extremely liberal in an age in which things are progressing so fastly? So that's kind of where I'm coming from today. I know it's not time for the sermon yet, but I wanted to preface this reading. This reading is from really probably the most respected expert on virtual reality, Jeremy Bailenson, who's a professor at Stanford University, initially in the psychology department, but his particularly emphasis is how does virtual reality impact us psychologically. So he's written a couple books, including his most recent, Experience on Demand. I want you to hear what he says in his introduction. Consumer virtual reality is coming like a freight train. It may take 2 years, it may take 10, but mass adoption of affordable and powerful VR technology combined with vigorous investment in content is going to unleash a torrent of applications that will touch every aspect of our lives. The powerful effects that researchers, doctors, industrial designers, pilots, and many others have known about for decades are about to become tools for artists, game designers, filmmakers, journalists, and eventually regular users empowered by software to design and create their own custom experiences. At the moment, however, VR is unregulated and poorly understood. Consequently, the most psychologically powerful medium in history, is getting an alpha test on the fly, not in an academic lab, but in living rooms across the globe. We each, therefore, have a role in defining how this technology is shaped and developed.
So during the first service, I was a little overwhelmed with emotion singing this next song. And though I've been singing it for over 20 years, we got about halfway through and the lyrics completely left my brain. And so I stopped, I talked a little bit about the context of this song, and then we went on. So we thought for this service, I'll talk a little bit about the context before I sing, and hopefully that will stave off those emotions, or just make sure I can get through the song without, no promises, but we'll do our best. But this song was written during the height of the AIDS crisis. And in fact, 2 of its composers later died of the disease. And a few years later, it sort of resurfaced again in the early struggles for marriage equality. So the song is very grounded in the LGBTQ rights movement. And at the same time, I think it can be taken much broader. What I take away from this song is that it's an urgent call to live authentic lives, particularly when we're dealing with forces who would like us to live as something or someone other than who we truly are. If your heart always did what a normal heart should do, if you always live apart instead of being who you truly are, then you might just miss the one who's standing there. So instead of passing by, show them that you care. Instead of asking why me and why you, why not we too? 'Cause love don't need a reason, and love don't always rhyme, and love is all we have for now. What we don't have is time. If we always believe all the madness that we're taught, never questioning the rules, then we're living lies we bought so long ago. How are they to know? It's not who's wrong or right, it's just another way. And it's not about a fight, it's just I wanna stay with you to the end, with you, my friend. 'Cause love don't need a reason, love don't always rhyme, and love is all we have for now. What we don't have is time. I'll hold you close, time can't tear us apart. Forever I will stand by you. It's got to start with the beat of two hearts. Together we can see this through. 'Cause love don't need a reason, and love is never a crime, and love is all we have for now. What we don't have, what we don't have is time.
Wow, Kevin, thank you so much. I enjoyed hearing that song both ways. It was nice that you got through it this time, but I tell you, it was just as beautiful the first time. And the way you handled losing it with such poise and calm, I mean, it was just like part of it. It was beautiful to have that break, and then you go back into the song. I mean, I wish you could just a master. I'm just a master. So, yeah, thank you for being here today. Yeah. So, Ernest Cline's 2011 novel about a virtual world called The Oasis ends by reminding us that this worldwide phenomenon, in the novel anyway, more popular and widely used than Facebook is today, and in which most people spend most of their time, isn't really real. That's how it ends. While its fictional programmer and creator, James Halliday, understands its value, he admits he built the Oasis based upon his own messed up understanding of the world. Something I didn't figure out for myself until it was already too late. The dead hacker's virtual avatar tells Wayne Watts, the game's greatest player ever. I created the Oasis because I never felt at home in the real world. I didn't know how to connect with the people there. I was afraid for all of my life. Right up until I knew it was ending. That was when I realized, as terrifying and painful as reality can be, it's also the only place where you can find true happiness, because reality is real. Do you understand? In the 2018 movie adaptation, directed by Steven Spielberg, the same sentiment is more succinctly stated as, reality is the only thing that's real. Yet, as huge a fan of both the book and the film that I am, I did not find this moral to the story, which turns it into just another cautionary tale, satisfying or convincing. From my perspective, it comes out of left field and is not consistent with the rest of the story. If anything, the billions of people living and playing and working and developing relationships and so many other things that people do proves the opposite, that practically speaking, the Oasis is just as real and just as meaningful, if you prefer, as the non-virtual world. I didn't complete the book or the movie, which I've watched 5 times already, thinking that Halliday is right. Virtual reality is dangerous and a delusional coping mechanism that prevents us from facing reality and dealing with the real challenges before us. My fascination with the story is the opposite. I like it because it excites me. It excites me about all the potential this exponentially advancing technology has for enhancing our real lives and expanding our understanding of what reality is and what it isn't. Like many of us, I first became aware of virtual reality technology around 2015 when I started seeing a few of those commercials in which first-time users seemed kind of astonished at whatever it was they were seeing beneath this small headset. Any of you remember those? And I was skeptical. I'm skeptical about most commercials, but in this case, I couldn't imagine anything viewed within such a small device, being worth my time. What could they be looking at, Then one day in 2017, I happened to be passing a kiosk at a mall that offered me a look inside a virtual reality headset for just a few bucks. So out of curiosity, I decided to try it. After selecting the space option, I sat down in a mechanical chair that moved in sync with the visuals and covered my eyes with the headset. And inside, I found myself moving through space towards this 3-dimensional image of a star nebula. And I enjoyed it, but I didn't find it any more impressive than I had any other 3D experiences or movies that I've seen. But then I noticed this planet moving towards my right side. And then I noticed that it wasn't disappearing off the edge of the screen. And I turned my head and for the first time realized that I was in a 360-degree environment, as if I were in a spaceship moving through space. That was the moment that I was hooked. I took that headset off after a brief 3-minute experience, and I said to myself, I've got to have one of these. A week later, after a bit of research, I purchased my first virtual reality headset, a technology that had only been around, at least at the consumer grade, for less than 2 years. In addition to the headset, the Oculus Rift, as it's called, it came with 2 hand controllers, 2 external sensors that you set outside for tracking the motion of this headset and your controllers, and a long cable that tethered to a very high-functioning or fast-processing computer. I added an additional sensor behind me, so I was kind of in a triangle, which allowed it to pick up my range of motion a little bit better. And then less than 2 years later, the technology advanced enough to where I didn't need those external sensors at all, but the headset itself tracked its own motions and the motion of the hands with little cameras. Then a few months later, the Oculus Quest 2 was released without any need for any external sensors or connecting to a separate computer. It was completely untethered. The hand controllers did come with it, but otherwise it was all self-contained. And the hand controllers actually will soon be a thing of the past as well. There's already experimental technology on those headsets you can turn on where you put the handsets down and it sees your hands and creates a virtual set of your own hands inside wherever you're at. So you put this headset on and you have your hands and you can move your fingers and grab and point and do all these amazing things. So that's where the technology is going. Now, the very first night that I used my headset, I tried out a virtual social space called AltSpace, in which participants could walk around a virtual campfire meet and talk with others. And I was amazed that even though I was standing still in my basement, I found the voices of others becoming louder or quieter according to how distant I got from them or how closely I approached them. And knowing that those individuals were also standing still in the same spot someplace. And yet it was as if we were in a real park, moving about, hearing conversations and walking away from them. So we appeared to each other as cartoonish avatars, which was more than enough to give us a real sense of presence. And I struck up a conversation with a fellow who ended up being from Nashville, Tennessee, just a couple hours away from Louisville, Kentucky, where I moved here from. And he also happened to be a Unitarian, which was a lot of fun. So we talked for several hours before we finally called it a night. That was my first experience, and this was another one of those astonishing experiences or revelations to me, because in my mind, it was a real experience involving a real conversation with a real person, both of us together in real virtual space. And I'll talk more about real virtual, what I mean by real virtual, in a bit. For now, I have heard some criticize virtual reality as not being the same as being with someone in person. Some have even expressed fear that the technology might further distance us from having real human connections. Of course, nothing is the same as something else, right? I mean, that's just logical. So watching a game on television is not the same as watching it in a stadium. Listening to recorded music is not the same as going to a live concert. Reading a digital book on Kindle is not the same as reading a hardcover. Yet not being the same as something else doesn't necessarily negate its value, right? Nor does the existence of one thing necessarily threaten the existence of another. Just as it is possible to watch a game on TV or at a stadium, or to listen to recorded music or a live concert, or read a digital book or a hard copy, it is possible to visit people in person and in virtual reality. One doesn't demean the other or diminish the other. I cannot, for instance, be with my son in person very often because he lives too far away. Yet we can easily put on our headsets and hang out with each other while fishing at a virtual lake in South Korea, or sitting around a campfire in Yosemite, or while surviving the zombie apocalypse in Arizona sunshine. How's it going, son? Good, Dad. Now, sometimes he calls me on the phone to catch up, and often on Sunday afternoons, he and his fiancée, Katrina, FaceTime with Peggy and I while they're cooking dinner together. None of these experiences are the same, but they are all good ways of being together, even if we can only seldom actually be together in person. Right? Listening to music on a CD is a great experience if you can't go to the concert to hear somebody, right? I didn't discover how much I loved my favorite performer until after he died, John Denver. Yeah. So, these are powerful mediums to help us experience others. The fear of virtual reality leading to people being even more disconnected is equally as illogical, in my opinion, although it is on the surface understandable. And here's why. Look at what social media has done to our society. The current state of social media has done to our society. Go just about anywhere, and people are looking at their devices rather than engaging with each other. Right? Even in restaurants. Even if you go to a movie, I see those little lights shine. I don't even go to the movies anymore. I go to virtual theaters, where I'm the only one in the theater. So social media today, it easily exposes us to what we want to hear, whether it's true or not. It fashions echo chambers in which we hear only the things we agree with, which drives us towards extremism, towards extreme thinking, towards misinformation, and towards intentional disinformation, and lots of other dysfunctional ways of relating to each other. Yet I see the advancement of virtual reality as being a fix to these problems because it puts us back in each other's presence, albeit a virtual presence. Right? It's not the same, but it's still a type of presence. People will say things to or about others on social media that they would never say to them in person. It's as if social media utilizes the most primal region of the brain, sometimes called the reptilian brain, responsible for fight and flight. And Twitter's short quips foster stream of consciousness expression, not thoughtful conversation. Yet humans, we develop empathy, compassion, and openness by seeing each other's faces, which we need to learn in order to establish healthy relationships and in order to become fully developed human beings, right? That's the last part of the brain that unfolds, is the part that is responsible for developing empathy. So for us to fully unfold, we need to be able to demonstrate empathy, or we haven't. And that comes by seeing each other, right? So empathy stems from the mirror neurons that are located in the supramarginal gyrus, which is part of our neocortex, right? Not the instinctive part of the brain, but the part that takes intention. Mirror neurons are among the very first structures, neural structures, to develop in infants, which is why babies learn to smile before they learn to do most anything else. Right? They look at the face and they see a smile and they learn to mimic that, to mirror that, soon after they're born. So this is not how we learn empathy. That's not it. In his book, Healing the Angry Brain, psychologist Ronald Potter Efron says that mirror neurons initiate processes that allow you to get a feel for another person's actions and intentions. This creates a bridge between you and the people around you. Yet as with mirrors, in order to develop our empathic mirror neurons, it helps us to see the faces of others, not their tweets, not their simple likes and dislikes. So my hope is that virtual reality, which Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg has called the next social platform, will replace social media as we know it. And I'm glad to know that Zuckerberg has already invested billions in Oculus technology and recently renamed his company Meta with the intention of replacing his current social platform with a virtual metaverse, not unlike the fictional Oasis in Ready Player One. So imagine in the near future, instead of tweeting our thoughts to and about others, we are socializing in virtual spaces, and our mirror neurons located in the frontal cortex, not the primal brain, become activated instead, right? That social media activates the frontal cortex rather than the primal part of the brain. That will be the difference between this and this. Can be the difference. I also imagine similar arguments were made when the telephone first came about. I don't know this, but I imagine, right, that somebody said, I want to look someone in the eye when speaking to them. It's not the same as speaking to them in person. The telephone will prevent us from having real human connections. What we do know is that Elisha Gray, a telegraph man, almost beat Alexander Graham Bell in being the first to invent the telephone. And even so, Gray didn't believe much in the value of this technology, telling his patent lawyer in 1875 that it was hardly worth the bother, since it has no commercial value at present, for they can do much more business over a line by methods already in use. Right? Why change? Why go with the flow of the new technology? And in 1878, just 3 years later, when Theodore Vail quit his job at the U.S. Post Office to become the first general manager of a new little upstart called Bell Telephone Company, his former boss angrily complained, I can scarce believe that a man of your sound judgment should throw it up for a damned old Yankee notion called a telephone. Dismissive comments like this reveal an uneasiness, even a disdain for this new technology, and a huge miscalculation about both the disruption and advantages it would bring. In 1889, the English Post Office's chief engineer told Parliament, I fancy the descriptions we get of its use in America are a little exaggerated. Though there are conditions in America which necessitate the use of such instruments more than here we have a superabundance of messengers, errand boys, and things of that kind. I have one in my office, but more for show. If I want to send a message, I use a sounder or employ a boy to take it. Might have missed the trend a little bit on that one. Still, at the time, there were some, like Bale and like Vail, who believed enough in this new technology to risk everything they had on it. As one historian wrote in 1910, the telephone remains the acme of electrical marvels. No other thing does so much with so little energy. No other thing is more enswathed in the unknown. If there was mystery to this powerful new technology. By the way, one of the reasons people didn't believe in it is because, this is a little bit of a sidetrack, but the telegraph used binary code, right? Dots and dashes. It was simple computer language. And you can't translate a conversation into computer language, so it seemed like it was actually going to be more complicated. The phone made communication more complicated. So anyway, that's a sidetrack. Now, the same things are being said about virtual reality today. Some dread it, and some are enthusiastic about it. Some consider it a fad that won't amount to much, and others a gateway into the unknown and the unfamiliar. Whichever opinion is correct, VR is here to stay, and it is likely to be more disruptive to many current technologies and businesses than anything in human history. I'll explain why, including, by the way, the internet and the personal computer. What I'm saying is VR may very well make the personal computer go away. At least real virtual computers. So as Stanford University professor Jeremy Bailenson said in his recent book again, Experience on Demand, this is a unique moment in history as the potent and relatively young technology of VR migrates from industrial and research laboratories to living rooms across the world. This is the moment we're in. As a liberal, I'm excited about this technology because of all the good I believe it can do in the world. And as a philosopher, I'm also interested in its deeper philosophical implications regarding the nature of reality to begin with. Virtual reality is something the military and other researchers have been developing and experimenting with for decades, but it was only recently, in 2015, some of its performance problems were resolved by a teenager, Palmer Luckey, who was working on his own headset design while living in an old RV in his parents' driveway. And just 3 years later, the company that Luckey started, Oculus VR, was purchased by Facebook for $2 billion. Since then, the technology has been advancing exponentially. And I predict that by the end of this decade, things will begin to look a lot different for us than they do today because of it. By then, virtual reality will have advanced enough that there will be much less need for us to travel, which is going to be a good thing for the environment. Obviously, some jobs, like hospital jobs, require human presence, but you won't have to always leave home to see your doctor. You can do so from the convenience of your own home. We may travel for recreation and vacation at times, but not necessarily to attend work meetings or conferences or to even go to work. It's already happening thanks to, it's one of the consequences of COVID, right? We realize that we can conveniently meet using technology. In fact, there's a real estate company based out of Bellingham. I wish I could remember the name of it. Anyway, they were dying in 2008 because of the crash, and they couldn't afford to keep their business. They just had a few employees, and the owner said, we've either got to get out of the business of having a hard property, having a hard building, or we've got to get out of real estate altogether. And so they created a virtual company, right? That owns no property, no buildings. And now they are the largest real estate company in the world. Thousands of employees who all meet in a virtual space. So there are going to be entrepreneurs out there starting companies that will never need to lay a brick and could have countless employees. Additionally, there are also numerous virtual workspaces free to download on your headset, set in beautiful environments that include conference tables, the ability to share screens, and even have sticky notes for you to keep track of what's going on. And those meeting in them can be from different places around the world and yet never have anybody commuted to work. It's happening today. Get on your Oculus Quest and choose your space. So remember, the first cellular phones were invented in the early 1970s, but it wasn't until around 2000 that 3G networks came about, allowing us the bandwidth necessary, the minimum bandwidth necessary for them to become ubiquitous. Prior to this, just calling somebody from a distance, even if it was just the next county over, was cost prohibitive. That's not how we did business for the most part. We couldn't even communicate by telephone, right? Everything came in the mail, snail mail. When friends or family or children moved away, we didn't hear much from them anymore because calling was just too expensive. When I was growing up, my mother's parents lived in Maine. We heard from them once a year at Christmas. We would talk for a few minutes on the phone. That was it. And I have no relationship with them. So the ubiquitous use of cell phones and the internet has changed all of this in short order, right? Just about 20 years, 30 years. Allowing us to stay in touch and even work with people from all over the world for pennies. Think about the reduced emissions when most of us don't have to travel to routine places like work or school or to the doctor's office. Virtual reality is also going to save us a lot of resources. Currently, our smartphones have the abilities that in the recent past, would have required us to purchase multiple devices and had a lot of storage area and spend a lot of money on things like cameras and camcorders and film development and music CDs and sound systems and calculators and telephones and so many other things that they do for us today. Today, for only a few $100, we get all of these technologies in one device, one small device that fits into our pockets. But in VR, even the smartphone goes away. All you need to do is look at your virtual hand and manifest a virtual smartphone if you want to use one. Or turn on your virtual big screen television. Or if you want a giant theater that belongs to you alone, and you can connect to Netflix or Amazon Prime or rent a movie. Or you can work on a virtual computer. Yeah, you can actually work on a computer in a virtual space that has no physical existence outside of the processor it's connecting to in your headset. Or just about any other kind of tech you can think of. Right? We won't have to have hard tech, that much hard tech anymore. We'll have one piece of tech. So I think in the next few years, most of the electronics we need will become virtual objects or digital objects that don't require resources or manufacturing. Nor do the virtual spaces we're in take up any land, nor resources for construction, for building construction. Nor will we need to shut the world out necessarily to enjoy all of these things. We don't necessarily have to go inside this headset because there are currently several companies, including Google and Apple, that are working with what we call augmented reality. Augmented reality glasses, okay? And these AR glasses place virtual objects in the real world. So it would just be like me looking at you through these glasses, but I have virtual artifacts all around me. So if I want to say, who's that guy in front row? Oh, that's Dan Ekert. You know, your name might pop up. If I'm walking down the street and I see a restaurant I'm not familiar with, the menu will come up for me and I'll know what options are there. If I'm traveling and I want to know, have GPS guidance there, the road will have virtual arrows and whatnot on it so that it can help guide me there. All sorts of things that these AR glasses will do, in addition to providing us these virtual electronics. So, we won't have to purchase a television, we won't have to purchase a computer, we won't have to purchase a cell phone. All of these things will exist in virtual reality. And maybe we'll go for a walk and we'll have a friend seemingly beside us who is someplace else walking. Or if we need comfort animals, and we don't want to actually have to clean up after them, we just get a virtual dog and walk around, and we're the only ones who see it. It doesn't bother anyone else, right? So, or a 6-foot-tall rabbit, Harvey the rabbit. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? Alexa will be whatever I want Alexa to be. If I say, Alexa, I want you to be Mr. Spock, or something. I mean, I don't know, but or I want you to be a 6-foot rabbit, or I want you to be a hamster. This is where it really gets weird, of course. So Apple is poised to release its AR glasses this year or next. Right? That's what the buzz is, that it's going to be out this year or next. And if this product is as revolutionary as the iPhone, which will go away, imagine all the other resources we'll save when so many of our gadgets, like our smartphones and our computers and our televisions, are no longer necessary. So I have great hope that digitizing things and digitizing travel, saving resources and fuel in the process, is going to be great for the environment. Finally, as a philosopher, I'm just as intrigued by the ways this technology might impact our sense of reality. Most people think they know the difference between what is real and what isn't, but philosophers don't. We've never been able to figure it out. The nature of reality is a perennial problem that cannot be resolved. It usually boils down to just two opinions, that reality is fundamentally made of matter or that is fundamentally made of mind. And I'm not going to go into the difference between these arguments now. What's important for us to consider here is that when we are able to interact with virtual objects in virtual spaces, or sense that we are in two places at once, which is a new power, right, to transcend the limitations of location, or that we can have meaningful connections and experiences with people who are at places far away from us, then our collective understanding of what reality is going to have to greatly expand. Contemporary philosopher David Chalmers, who specializes in the philosophy of mind and cognitive science, has recently published a new book entitled Reality Plus, subtitled Virtual Worlds and the Problems of Philosophy. In it, this techno-philosopher, as he calls himself, argues that virtual reality isn't an illusion or a fiction, but its own kind of reality. Virtual places and objects are real, even if they are not the same as physical reality. Okay, a stuffed animal, for example, isn't a real animal, right? We would all agree with that. But it is a real stuffed animal, right? It's a real stuffed animal. Likewise, a virtual tree isn't a real tree, by our current understanding of real anyway, but it is a real virtual tree that you can interact with and rest under its shade in a virtual environment, in real virtual space. All of this brings us back to what I consider the disappointing conclusion of Ready Player One, which I otherwise love, that reality is the only thing that's real. For it is foolish to think that any of us understands what reality is to begin with, and that our limited definitions of it can settle the matter forever. Today we are on a precipice of a new frontier that will require all of us to expand our collective consciousness. The world is changing faster than ever before. As futurist Ray Kurzweil has said, we won't experience 100 years of progress in the 21st century. It will be more like 20,000 years of progress. We can resist these fast changes, or we can work to guide the direction that they take. But we cannot prevent them. My hope is that we will use virtual reality to reconnect with each other, to develop friendships all over the planet, to lessen our demand for hard resources, and to radically reduce our carbon footprint. Fear of change tempts us to become conservative in our thinking and in our behaviors. Embracing such uncertainty, on the other hand, is what makes us progressive and able to progress. May we find the courage and the wisdom to move forward together. Thank you.
Well, we're we're going to sing an old song from 1976. It's Fleetwood Mac, but it points to tomorrow. You may remember it, Bill Clinton used it in his campaign in the 92, I think, and for his inaugural ball in 93. So please rise to sing Don't Stop with me. Fleetwood Mac. And don't want to smile, if it takes just a little while, open your eyes and look at the day. You'll see things in a different way. Don't stop thinking about tomorrow. Don't stop, it'll soon be here. It'll be better than before. Yesterday's gone. Yesterday's gone. Why not think about the times to come and not about the things that you've done?